Host, Shelley Roberts. Myself, along with this series of fabulous speakers, are sharing what it means to be living powerfully from our own inner authority, which gives you wings to fly. I invite you to listen in on each of these conversations to get the most out of this event. It can be a game changer. One aha could literally change your life. In this free virtual series, you're learning how to connect to your inner authority and recognize and clear your inner glass ceilings so you can show up in your life in a bigger, more confident, and more empowered way. When you take it all in, you will walk away with the insights and action steps to powerfully create your own success and level up your life. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Debra Poneman, bestselling author and seminar leader. For over 40 years, Debra Poneman, bestselling author and founder of Yes to Success seminars, has shared her system, now used by tens of thousands of people around the world, to create lives of not only success and abundance, but deep happiness, self-love, and lasting inner fulfillment. Known as the mentor to the mentors, Debra's students have used her teachings to become mega successful entrepreneurs, renowned transformational leaders, New York Times bestselling authors, powerful world changers, millionaires, billionaires, even household names. But Debra feels her greatest accomplishments is not only that she's taught so many people how to live their dreams, but how to look in the mirror and love the person that they see. I'm getting chills at that. Debra, thank you for joining the summit. We have the original Miss Yes to Success with us today. I love that. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this every day. I think, is today the day I get to be with Shelley? No, it's tomorrow. No.
It's one of my favorite topics, and I know it's definitely one that's near and dear to your heart. You've been doing this a long time. Thank you for being a pioneer in helping people achieve their dreams. How did you get started in being a transformational coach before we even had them?
Well, it was kind of by accident, to tell you the truth. In the decade of the 70s, I was a teacher of transcendental meditation. It was very popular in the 70s. It still is. And now everybody is supposed to think, wow, she was teaching in the 70s? She doesn't look that old. Okay, think that now. And then by the end of the 70s, and I lived in Fairfield, Iowa, which was a meditation community, and I was actually the director of admissions at Maharishi International University, which I loved. But after a few years, I realized that, well, after the decade, I realized that woman does not live by mantra alone. And I actually needed things like health insurance and car insurance and maybe even a car to insure would be nice.
Oh,
and
practical stuff.
All right, just details. But it was a nonprofit. So I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to go out, I was going to make a lot of money so that I could, again, do what I love to do, which is work for the TM movement. So I looked around the country. This is a true story. I thought, okay, where do people make a lot of money? I thought New York and Los Angeles. And I'm in Fairfield, Iowa. And I thought, well, it's kind of cold in New York, just like it is in Fairfield, Iowa. I think I'll go to Los Angeles. And then I thought, how do people make money in Los Angeles? They sell investments. So with absolutely no experience, I get this job with an investment company selling tax shelters. Now, I was so bad at it that it wasn't even a joke. I mean, I never sold one tax shelter. However, you know the expression, we make plans and God laughs. So I make plans to go out there and make a bunch of money. And that wasn't to be. But what was to be is that one day, one of my colleagues asked me to attend a seminar with them on money. I thought, oh yes, something that's going to help me be better at what I do. And I walk in, this was in the 1980s. It was 1980. I walk in and the guy was talking about the law of attraction.
Huh.
And he says 40 years ago, almost to the date. And he was saying that whatever we think we attract, and no matter what our financial situation is, if we're always talking about how poor we are and we'll never get out of debt, we'll never own a home, we will vibrate like that. And like vibration can only attract like vibration, like a tuning fork. And then he said, but whatever your financial situation is, if you're always talking about the good financial times to come, your word is your wand, and you will be able to vibrate at that higher vibration, thus attract that into your life. And he said many, many other beautiful, profound, energetic ways to become wealthy, not just investments. Okay. He said, helping other people become wealthy is a way to become wealthy. Wishing other people success and prosperity is a way to open up energetically to prosperity to come to you. Well, I was on fire. Every cell in my body is vibrating. And I knew that that was why I had come to Los Angeles, because I was supposed to go to that lecture and I was supposed to be teaching that. So the next morning I went in, quit my job. People are like, oh, wow, you quit your job. That's so impressive. Well, it wasn't really impressive at all because I hadn't sold one investment. So I was no kind of hero. Quit my job. And for the next 6 months, I studied all the great masters like Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Emmett Fox and Florence Shinn. I just devoured all of their knowledge like a kid in the candy store. And I realized that the knowledge of how to energetically create success, energetically create prosperity, it existed. And all I did was I took all of the greatest knowledge and I put it together into a weekend seminar. And what's interesting about this, I became very successful right out of the chute, but I did it by using the principles that I was learning. So I'll give you an example or two. One example is when you have an idea, your idea that you're going to do, don't go around telling everybody about it, because what's going to happen is that one of two things. One is that you're going to run up against the discouragement committee and they're going to tell you, right? And they're going to tell you all the reasons why your idea is not going to work. So like a tiny seed that can easily be crushed, it's crushed before it has a chance to even sprout. And the other reason why we don't tell everybody, because your idea is sacred, and what is sacred should be kept secret. The other reason is that if you go around telling everybody, then they say, oh, wow, Shelley, what a great idea. Well, you get all of the accolades and you're less motivated to actually go do it. So I say, keep the steam in the kettle. Don't keep letting the steam out by telling people what you're going to do. And one day it has to burst forth into your idea. So I didn't tell a person, not even a soul, except for my husband at the time, what I was doing. They kept saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, I'll tell you when the time comes. And the other thing is, don't wait until you think you're ready. Because
see, that's so powerful. Yeah.
Never think you're ready. Oh, I'll do it when the kids grow up. I'll do it when I get to the divorce. I do it when I get the inheritance. I'll do it when, the moon turns into green cheese. No, you have to, when the idea comes to you, it comes to you because the creator, the God of your understanding, has chosen you as the vehicle for that idea to have come to, because the God of your understanding knows that you are the person who could bring it into fruition. But if you don't, then the God of your understanding is going to have to give that idea to somebody else, because it's needed in the world to be manifested at that time for the world to work. You got first dibs. But that's why so many times we see somebody manifest an idea and we're like, that was my idea. Well, yeah, but you didn't
act on it.
Right? You didn't act on it. So I had this idea. I put the seminar together. When I put up the posters, because that was how we advertised in 1980, the discouragement committee came out, told me all the reasons it wasn't going to work and nobody was going to believe a crazy idea like your thoughts create your reality. But I had taken a step from which there was no turning back, which was putting up the posters, renting the room at the Santa Monica Public Library. And so when the discouragement committee was ready to crush my tiny seed, it was already a strong sprout on the way to being a tree. And they were wrong, because when I went into this room at the Santa Monica Public Library, they were standing room only. And that was the beginning of my mega success. Within a few short years, my seminars were being taught all over the world. And that was decades before the internet made international communication instantaneous. That was like phones with curly cords. There weren't even fax machines back then. But I still had my seminar being taught in 7 countries, on 4 continents, and in major cities across the US. And you mentioned that I was the mentor to the mentors, and many of today's top transformational leaders were my students in the 80s, and they still attribute their mega success to what they learned at my Yes to Success seminar. And
Oh,
that's my
that's
story.
you're a living example of putting the principles into practice. Yeah, and they still work today. That's so amazing. So your yes to success, a set of principles, a set of practices. I mean, and it's probably not the Mercedes or Tesla this time around. It's probably something else.
It is something else. And you know, it was something else back then. Although the funny thing is that I teach people how to manifest whatever they want. And you say the Mercedes, back then I was driving a beat up old Chevy Bel Air that my aunt had left me when she died. It was 10 years old. But one of the principles that I taught people is that visualize what you want. And at that time, I wanted a Mercedes. I was broke, right? And I was 29 years old. And the only thing I'd ever done was taught meditation. But I went to the Mercedes dealer and I said, I wanted a picture of the one that I wanted. And I put it up on my bulletin board and I saw myself in it every day. And the other thing that I did was every time I got in my beat up old Chevy Bel Air, I said, thank you. She even had a name. Her name was Shirley. Thank you, Shirley, for getting me where I need to go every day. Yes, my blue name Shirley. So you have gratitude for what you have, exactly how you have it, and you also visualize yourself in possession of what you want. And truthfully, about 4 years after that, somebody gave me that exact Mercedes that I had up on my bulletin board when I was broke and driving Shirley.
Oh, see, that's manifestation in action.
Yes. And another thing that people ask me, they say, well, did you visualize that the room was going to be full? Because remember, I went to the Santa Monica Public Library. They say, is one of the reasons why the room was overflowing and standing room only is because you visualized. And you know what, Shelley, I did visualize, but I don't visualize like most people tell you to do. I didn't visualize the room is full, the room is full, the room is full. What I visualize is me, and I still do this, connecting with the audience in front of me and my heart overflowing into their hearts and their appreciation for what I'm giving coming back to me, and both of us in love with each other and their lives just mega exploding into the glorious lives that they're meant to live. That's my visualization. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to be successful. I don't teach my students, I will have a best-selling book, I will have a best-selling book. No, visualize what's the people who read your book, what their lives are going to be like by taking your advice.
Yeah.
That's visualization.
That is. And I think that infusing it with the emotion of the gratitude and the anticipation, like it's already there and part of your experience, and it makes it so much more real. And our minds don't know the difference. Our minds don't mind the difference. So you're holding on to the vision of what you do want, which is another thing that's super, super important, right? So, okay, so your yes to success, is there a formula to this? I mean, you've given us some like secrets to it. The visualization, absolutely. And the connection of your desire is absolutely part of it. What else is there?
Well, there are a lot of parts of the formula because it's a blueprint. Oh, if you were going to build a house, you don't just like get a pile of bricks and start throwing them on the top of each other and hope the house turns out okay. You get a blueprint. And you get somebody who's skilled to help you create the blueprint, and then you start putting the bricks in the right place, okay? The other thing you need for a structure to be grand is you need a foundation. So one thing I tell people to do is to have a meditation practice, because I believe that a practice that creates inner silence is the foundation to your success. Because if you don't have something that allows you to feel immovable no matter what, then you're at the mercy of circumstances. Your book makes the New York Times, you're thrilled. Your book doesn't make the New York Times, you know it's perfect. Okay, you find your soulmate, you're thrilled. You don't find your soulmate, you love yourself anyway. It doesn't, right? Yeah. And I believe that one of the most powerful ways to do that is to have a meditation practice that really does create inner silence. You know, as I said, I was a TM teacher for many years. Now I actually teach through the Art of Living Foundation, but they're both meditations that have been and they're both excellent. They've both been scientifically proven to release stress. There's tons of research that shows it does create immovability. And by the way, at these times that are so uncertain and so volatile, I love the quote from the hugging saint, Amaji. You know, she's that beautiful saint from India, Amritananda. People call her Amaji. She says, at these times, it is essential to hold on to your spiritual practices, so when the world shakes, you remain unshakable.
Yeah.
So there are other reasons why we do a meditation practice. So the first thing, and you know, whatever really allows you to have that inner silence, whether it's yoga, whether it's japa, whether it's doing your rosary, whether it's prayer, whether it's walking a labyrinth, whether it's drumming, whatever gives you that unshakable inner silence, really cling to your practice. And that is the foundation to success. And then I believe in good old-fashioned goal setting. Well, actually, the next step after the foundation is having an attitude that creates success. And also speaking words of success, because your word really is your one. I got to tell you a really quick story. You know, I have many stories, but I'm going to tell you one really quick story. In 2016, I believe it was 2016, 2017, I got sick. I got a really bad, I think it was like a flu kind of thing. And usually when I get a flu, I just take some echinacea, some golden seal, boom, it's gone. But this time it wasn't gone. As a matter of fact, as the days went on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I got sicker and sicker. And by Saturday, I thought I was going to die. I was lying in bed and I thought, I live by myself. I could die here. And so I called a friend of mine who's actually a healer. And I said, can you help me? Because he usually did. And he said, yes, I'll help you, but you have to promise that you do what I say. And I say, what do you want me to do? And he said, call 911 immediately. Ooh. So, and I didn't even have the strength. He called 911. Paramedics came. They had to break down my door because I couldn't even get out of bed to open the door. Wow. They took my blood pressure. It was like 52 over 20 something. Dang. And it turned out that I had what's called an advanced sepsis, which is bacteria in the blood. And if you have one bacteria, you have about 50% chance of living. Wow. And I did too. I had come back from a developing country and it incubated for a while. And so they took me to the hospital. I'm in the emergency room or in the ER, and they're hooking me up to every tube imaginable to try to save my life. And as I was lying there, I started going to the other side. And when I was in this place between life and death, the first thing I see is that when my eyes are open, I could see everybody rushing around trying to save my life. When my eyes are closed, I could see everybody rushing around trying to save my life. But I also saw that everything that the doctors and the nurses were doing was actually guided by this beautiful radiant white light. They thought they were moving their hands on their own volition, but no, the light was actually guiding every movement, and everybody who was working together, it was like cogs in a fine-tuned watch. And I saw that there is no such thing as a mistake. You know, people say there are no mistakes in the universe. I saw that in that place between life and death. As a matter of fact, at one point, one of the nurses fumbled an IV bag and dropped it on the gurney. And everybody shot her daggers, you know, like, you clumsy thing. But I saw that when she put her head down, her head moved away from one of the monitors, and another nurse went, oh, and she made an adjustment that saved my life. There are no mistakes.
Yes.
And then my husband showed up. We were not living together. We were separated at the time and now divorced, but still my dear, dear, dear friend. And he comes in and it didn't look good. And he's sitting in the chair and I see these tears rolling down his cheeks. And I couldn't speak because I was that far gone. But I saw a nurse go over to him and put her hand on his shoulder and say, don't worry. She's going to be fine. And I'm telling you, Shelley, when she said the words, she's going to be fine, I saw the words come out of her mouth accompanied by this like pink sparkly light. It was like My Little Pony, you know, one of those rainbows. Did it? It went out of her mouth. She's going to be fine, into my body, and brought all of my strength back. into every cell, her word, she's going to be fine. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, what I've been teaching all these years about your words create your reality, which is one of the key components of Yes to Success. I was like, it's true. What I've been teaching is true. And I remember saying to God, let me live so I could tell people, because then the doctor came in, he looked at the monitors and he went in this really harsh voice. He goes, get her blood pressure up or we're going to lose her. And when he said, we're going to lose her, I saw his words accompanied by this brown gray kind of gunk. It even smelled like a swamp, and it went out of his mouth into my body and took all my strength away again. So I promised God at that moment, if God would just let me live, I would tell people that the foundation of success is your words and your thoughts, or are your words and your thoughts. And from that moment, I made the commitment also, and the good news is I lived, as you've noticed, but I also made the commitment, I would never say anything that I didn't want to come true. I would never say, oh, my son is so this, or oh, my daughter, she's so that. I did those things all the time. Oh, he'll never, oh shit. Never again will I ever say anything that I don't want to be true, because I saw the power of my words. So the formula is the power of your words. When you hear yourself saying or thinking something you do not want in your life, you cancel it and you replace it with a thought or a words of what you do want. That's the first step. And the second step, after you got the mindset thing going, like I said, good old goal setting, because I believe that goal setting is putting your order into life. I believe there is a cosmic order taker, and that cosmic order taker just wants to know. I believe that there are angels and guardian angels and master angels and archangels and guides and ancestors and spirit guides and helpers, all who want to just line your path with gold, line your path with ease, move the obstacles out of the way to you getting what you want. But the first thing you have to do is decide what you want. And when you write it down, it helps you clarify what you want. So I believe that you should set goals. I believe that you should make a plan for how you're going to reach your goals. And then I believe after your goals are written, and I teach people very specifically lifetime goals, 5-year goals and plans, 1-year goals and plans, 1-month goals and plans, weekly goals. And because you got to break it down. The reason why people don't start on big goals is because it's too overwhelming. You got to break it down into bite-sized pieces. And then the final thing is I say, but then put across the top of every one of those pages, this or something better. Because if the cosmic intelligence and with the 360-degree view has something better for you, surrender and be open to that, and always be listening and follow your intuition when you're led in a different direction.
I love that. And I want to take it back a little bit to what you had started to say with respect to the role of meditation and all of that process as a key foundation, because it's that silence, the inner silence, that allows for the openness to be able to even hear those nudges in the first place, right?
Absolutely. When you're running around all day like a chicken with its head cut off, how do you expect God to speak to you? You know, people say, oh, Neil Donald Walsh had messages from God. Guys, I mean, do you really think that God only speaks to Neil Donald Walsh?
You just got to listen every day.
The difference between you and Neil Donald Walsh is that God speaks to you every minute of every day, but he just sat down and trusted it and sat at that typewriter and let it flow. And you could do the exact same thing. I got that from Napoleon Hill. I taught that in 1980. Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he said every day he starts out sitting for ideas. He writes at the top of the page in the morning, every morning, God, what are you and I going to create today? And then he just keeps writing, and whatever just flows through him. And then the hard part is trusting it, underlining or highlighting the action steps and trusting that it came from source, and trust that if you take those actions, that it comes from a place that's pretty, what's the word? Pretty sure you can count on those instructions better than your own limited thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. and knowing that the universe has a big, grander plan than what you can even begin to imagine for yourself. So you hold on to that vibration of optimism and acceptance and surrender, and then just let what comes come, and it's going to be grander than you can even begin to think of.
Yeah.
Love
And
that.
the other thing is, it's not that you're going to live obstacle free, because if there were no obstacles, if you were born into this life with no obstacles, you wouldn't have incarnated.
Right.
Nobody gets life handed to them on a silver platter. Sorry to say. Even the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest you see, people seem to be the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest, and then they take their own lives. So, outward appearances, don't trust them. But what you want to do is, when you have an obstacle in your path, I also got this from Napoleon Hill. You know what he does? When he says this in Think and Grow Rich, or maybe Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, he says, when I see an obstacle in my path, I say to it, well, hello, little fellow. I don't know what it is you've come to teach me, but whatever it is, I'm going to learn it so well that you will not have to come back a second time.
I love that.
Right? So when you see an obstacle, you could say to it, well, hello, little fellow, and learn what it's there to teach you, and then it doesn't have to come back again.
Yeah, in my case, it was, oh, hello, little fellow, you're back again. I was like, oh, and this time?
Right. And this time I'm really going to learn it.
There's always a variation on the theme. But it's all good because there's always going to be layers and depth that are part of it, for sure. So I love that. The inner peace, the acceptance. What are some of those barriers, though, and how do we get past them?
Well,
there's probably a bajillion.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the thing. First of all, when you have a barrier, you're going along towards your goal, da, 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 boom. Usually what we do is we go, no, why me? Why did this happen? It was so good. And what you do is you have gratitude for it. And I know it could be easier said than done, but the universe has your back. And as Byron Katie says, nothing happens to you. It's all for you. And if you just say, hello, little fellow, when the obstacle, and what I teach my students is have gratitude for it. Because if you look back on your life and you see everything that looked like a big old obstacle or, a big old, it always turned out to be good for you. Maybe you were like climbing up the side of the mountain. If you would have gotten there, you would have seen it was the wrong mountain. So sometimes when there's a stop, you have to course correct and start going up the right mountain. So what I tell my students to do is, when you have a stop, you say, thank you. Thank you. I say thank you to God, to the God of my understanding, because what happens is that when you express gratitude, you expand. When you get angry and why me, you contract, and it's all energy. And when you say thank you and you expand, then what happens is that the grace could come in, and the knowledge of why that happened could come in, and the direction that you should take appears to you. But when you're, why me? There's no space for any new knowledge to come in. I mean, I could tell you 1,000 stories of things that happened to me, and I could have grumbled until the cows came home, but I said thank you. And in every case, when you say thank you, then the grace reveals itself to you.
Yeah, and you have to be open, I think, to receiving it and accepting that it is for you in the first place.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you have to take risks. The great Lisa Nichols says, if you don't do something every day that scares you, you're not thinking big enough.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say that, but I think she was the first person who I heard say that. You're not thinking big enough. So you got to scare yourself every day. You can't just sit inside your comfort zone, because what happens is, if this is your comfort zone and you do something here, now your comfort zone's this big. Yes. And then you do something outside and it's scary, but you do it. Now your comfort zone is this big. So every time you do something outside your comfort zone, it expands, and then it becomes easier and easier to do those things that you used to think were so difficult.
so scary. Yeah. So powering through your fear, so that you can achieve that next level of uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be hugely uncomfortable, but definitely more, out of your comfort zone.
And you know why people don't do things outside their comfort zone is because they're afraid of failure. And I think that that's also so hysterical because we've heard so many times there's no such thing as failure. There's just a way to learn how not to do a thing next time. And I totally agree with that. There is no such thing as failure. Life is about some successes, some failures, some success. But the reason why we don't try, why we just stay in our lives of mediocrity, you want to know why? It's because we're afraid what other people are going to think if we fail. So we don't take risks because we are so afraid that other people are going to think that we're losers. And the truth is that we spend our time holding ourselves back so that we won't look bad in somebody else's eyes. And the truth is that nobody cares about you. You are not that important to them. Okay.
Yeah, the critic committee can stay right where it is.
And if you are that important to them, if they're just waiting to see if you're going to fail, they're not your friend anyway. And they're nobody you want in your life anyway. You want people who are cheering you on. You want your cheerleading section. But the truth is that if something happens and it doesn't work out, and they still cheer you on and they say, don't worry about it. Look at these good things about it. Those are the people who you want to continue in your life. If you get that energy that they're happy that you slipped up, then those are not the people. Because remember, it was the doctor's words that made me ill. It was the nurse's words that made me better. So other people in your environment have an effect on you. Yeah. So you want to be with the people who are thinking good thoughts for you, who want you to succeed. But the truth is that we hold ourselves back because we think that what other people think is important. And so we twist ourselves into some kind of pretzel to look good in front of other people when, again, they're not even watching you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more important to be good and feel good and be in your own adventure. And live your own life to the fullest instead of worrying about living your life for other people.
Absolutely, 100%. And, one other thing, the thing that you talk about breaking through the glass ceiling, it's so interesting because if we do look at our society and we see that people are held back, I mean, I know you know the statistics, so I'm not going to spout them all off by the number of women in business owners or managerial positions, the number of minorities. It is scary. We think that, there's so many women CEOs. I think less than 1 in 10 CEOs of major corporations are women. I think it's 92 out of 100 of the top 100 corporations in the US. I think 8 are women. And what we need to do is after I told you those statistics, stop looking at the statistics.
Don't be a statistic. Be a real person.
And you know what, Shelley? That's exactly it. Don't be a statistic. You have to break out of that because it's subliminal. We've been told that we are women, that we are minority, that we are this or that. So we cannot be the leaders. And the truth is that it doesn't have anything to do with that. You see your goal, you go for your goal. Damn the torpedoes. And another thing that you have to do if you want to be at the top of your game in any industry is you have to do what I call build relationship capital. I learned that concept actually from my son, but it is make sure that you treat everybody is the most important person in the world because they might be, a little college student at one of your lectures one day, but they might be a CEO of a major corporation the next. My kid's babysitter, when I lived in Evanston and we had a babysitter who was a student at Northwestern, I treated her as the most important person in the world because everybody is. They all deserve to be treated that way because they are the most important person in their world. So of course I treated Emily that day. Did I know that one day that she would be the president of one of the largest event planning companies in the country? I mean, their clients are like Geico and Mary Kay and Audi, and they used to put on the presidential breakfast, and I mean, we're talking big APEC, their clients, okay?
Wow.
And when I took off 20 years to be a mom at home, you know my story. But when I came back, who do you think was the first person to get me a speaking gig? Emily. She invited me right away to be the speaker at some big event in Bethesda because she remembered that I treated her as the most important person in the world. It wasn't like, well, she's a babysitter, so why do I have to treat her with too much respect?
Well, I think that's huge guidance, though, for any leader or aspiring leader to basically recognize that people are going to treat people the way they want to be treated, or it's in their best interest to treat people the way they would want to be treated. So if you're treating anybody and everybody like the most important person, that's not the norm. They're going to definitely remember that and appreciate it. And oh, by the way, it gives them permission to treat others the same way. What a beautiful world.
Yeah. And you know that thing that people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And how do you feel when you're pouring your heart out to somebody in a conversation and they're like looking around the room to see if there's somebody more important to talk to than you?
Yeah.
Well, you remember that.
Yeah.
And and then when something happens, like you become the president of the largest event planning company in the world, you remember the people who made you feel good and the people who did not make you feel good. And the reason I call it relationship capital is because really in any industry, it's the most important capital that you could have. Money, you can get it from somebody, you can borrow, you could get investors. But when you make sure that you build relationship capital throughout your life by treating people well, then when you are in a position where you need people to support you, they will be there.
Yeah, they'll definitely be there. That is so powerful. So for folks who are maybe, could you go a little bit into the difference between striving and the acceptance and the ease and grace that you've alluded to? I mean, the energy in between those two are so vastly different, but a lot of people are striving, trying to get ahead, striving. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between those two?
Yeah, I think that the word striving, I don't like the word striving as the way you framed it. It's not a great word. I am a great advocate of taking action. People absolutely misinterpreted the message of The Secret, that you just visualize what you want and then you could sit home and watch soap operas and drink Diet Pop and eat Cheetos and your good is going to fall into your lap.
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
No. You could visualize what you want, but you have to take action. Okay. So what I say is, though these words like trying and striving, you could just eliminate them from your vocabulary. But what I tell people to do is to take action based on the promptings of their intuition. And that's it. And that's why we have to slow down. What I tell people to do is every morning after their meditation to do what Napoleon Hill does. I call it sitting for guidance, okay? And for me, sitting for guidance is taking out that pen and paper, and you could say to the God of your understanding, what are you and I going to create today? And then what you do is you highlight the action steps, or you could also say, I have this meeting today. What are the best points for me to bring up? Or how can I succeed in this business? Or you can ask your partner, just like Neil Donald Walsh, you can ask your partner, which is your guides, the God of your understanding. And then what happens is that when you follow that guidance, it takes the striving out of the out of the equation.
Mm.
What happens is that you effortlessly take the path of least resistance because the path has been shown to you by a higher power that has your back, but also has that huge view that you in your individuality do not have. So what I say is introduce that, and even in the Course in Miracles, it says before you start your day, it says you ask the higher power, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? So before you start your day, you ask those 4 questions. And even throughout the day, you could say, okay, I'm at this crossroads. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Okay. And you can go inside, and I like paper and pen, and you will always get an answer. You will always get an answer because, see, your mind, your individual mind is not to be trusted because it's filled with impressions and lies that you've been told your whole life. You're a woman, you can't break through the glass ceiling. Okay, you're a minority, you're never going to be the president of the company. All of these lies that you've been told, that have been internalized by your parents, by your teachers, by your clergy, by mostly the media that wants you to think that way. Okay. And but what happens is that if you bypass this crazy thinking that's been dripped into your brain, and you go to that higher power is going to tell you the truth. So based on what the higher power dictates to you, I call it dictation from God sometimes, when it's because it feels like you're just taking dictation, and follow that, bypass the conscious thinking mind. It will always lead you to a better outcome so you don't have to strive.
I love that. I love that. And ease and grace and things click into place for you. Being open to it though, but accepting that it's for you and it will be orchestrated on your behalf. And I also love the idea of setting the tone for your day with the intention of the best outcome, even if you don't necessarily know what it is. I love that.
Absolutely. And also just have gratitude throughout your day. You know, people say, I teach my course, Yes to Success, and somebody made the comment, oh, she's just teaching us gratitude. You know, I'm always grateful anyway. And, you know, this is old stuff. And I'm thinking, I love you. And if you were actually practicing gratitude, your life would not look the way it looks.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that if we were grateful for everything in our lives, for the fact that we could walk in a room and flip a switch on a wall and a fan goes on, lights go on, music goes on, the air conditioning goes on. So on a sweltering hot day in Virginia, you're cool as a cucumber. Or when it's, you know, 20 below in Chicago with the wind chill, I flip a little switch and I'm toasty warm at 80 degrees. Do you know how lucky we are? And I mean, if for people who are watching this on a smartphone or a computer, which everybody is, do you know that you're better off than 85% of the people in the world? Let's have some real gratitude. And the more you have gratitude, the more you say thank you. It's like if you give somebody a gift and you're waiting to know if they even received it. And then you say, did you ever get that, you know, those essential oils I sent you? Oh yeah, I got them, but I had those ones already. Do you really want to give them any more?
Yeah, no.
No. But if they say, oh yes, and how did you even know that I love that fragrance? How do you know that I love lilac? How do you even know that I love frangipani? Whatever it is, then you want to give them more. And not that God is petty, but when you say thank you, thank you, thank you, that energy wants to just keep showering more and more grace into your life.
Yes, yes. And who doesn't want more ease and grace in their lives, for sure, and joy, fulfillment? Absolutely. Well, we are out of time already. Where did it go? I know you've got probably a million stories you could tell us too, but I'm going to tell folks to take your Yes to Success seminar.
Thank you.
And you have an incredible free gift for our audience, the 5 Secrets to True Success ebook. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, actually, it's a great story. I mentioned that I took some time off to be a mom at home, and to just truncate that story, at the height of my success, where I was about to have my own daytime TV talk show, and my Yes to Success book was in the hands of a major agent who was shopping it and interest from a couple New York publishers. My daughter was born, and being true to my own teachings, which is to follow the promptings of your heart, the promptings of my heart didn't want to leave that daughter to go to the bathroom, let alone
Aw.
to go tour with a book, no way, or to tape a TV show every morning at 5:30. So I put my career on hold for 21 years. And I stayed home because her brother was born 3 years later. Actually, his birthday was just a couple days ago, and he's now 29. So anyway, so what happened was that I never published my book because I decided to stay home with the kids. And because I know that that time goes by in the wink of an eye. I mean, they're 32 and 21. My daughter's a chiropractor. My son has an amazing nonprofit called Shot in the Dark Foundation. He made a movie about basketball in Chicago and it being the only way out for a lot of kids. And it was nominated for an Emmy. And anyway, my kids are they're pretty incredible. But my book,
an incredible mom.
oh, well, you know what? I think they come in with their own agendas, and I'm happy to get a little credit, but they were pretty spectacular from the minute they were born, as are my godchildren and my foster children. Like we talked about before, got a lot of incredible children in my life. But back to the book. So what happened was, when I didn't publish the book, for years, people are saying, when are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? And so finally, I decided, you know what? I am just going to take the juiciest principles of success and I'm going to put them in an ebook. So, and they're different from what we talked about today. There might be a little bit of overlapping, but I took the 5 secrets to creating a life of real true success. I tell some great stories. There's even a picture of me and my son. Not one of me and my daughter. Next ebook is going to be me and my daughter. But 5 secrets to a life of true success. And it's not a long book. You could read it in one sitting, but it is also not some pretend book just to, get you to get it or whatever. No, it is one heck of a juicy ebook about how to create a life of true and lasting success. So that's what I have for your people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that our audience after this interview are definitely going to want to check that out, and probably your seminar too.
Yeah. Well, when they get the ebook, then they can choose to be on my mailing list. And then when I do a seminar again, because I'm in the middle of one, and I'm going to start another one really soon, and they will be notified.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So for our audience, I'll provide the link on the Summit replay page for Debra's speaker, and then also on the Summit email announcement for today. And Debra, thank you so much for joining me on the Summit today. It's so awesome to have you.
Thank you for all the incredible work you're doing, and thank you for being the absolutely gorgeous soul inside and out that you are. I just adore you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Debra. For our community, be sure to look for our next interviews in your inbox. You have access for a full 7 days after each interview is released, so be sure to revisit the replay page often. And the link can be found in your daily Summit interview announcement email. We'll see you again soon in our next episode. Until then, shine your light into the world powerfully and in your highest expression. Thanks, Debra, and thanks, everyone.